Part 40. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 398. If I look at it with my spiritual sense first, I don't believe they will always be guarding us. With that said, Qin Hao sat on the ground, and the power in his body naturally burst out. For Qin Hao, he naturally wanted to see who was in the palace, otherwise they would not be able to come forward to save Emperor Taixuan. Suan Wu saw that Qin Hao had unfolded his spiritual consciousness, so he naturally stayed by Qin Hao's side, wanting to see what Qin Hao could do. He saw Qin Hao exploding his spiritual consciousness directly into the hall. He walked over and wanted to see what was inside. The guards on both sides of the door did not notice Qin Hao, so Qin Hao came directly to the hall and focused on the figure on the throne. Quasi-immortal emperor, he didn't expect that their dark ancient palace would still have such a person left in it. As he said that, Qin Hao shook his head helplessly. In Qin Hao's view, they had to deal with a lot of things. Not long after Qin Hao appeared, the person on the throne had already opened his eyes. He smiled and said, "Haha, I didn't expect you guys to come over." Qin Hao watched them focus on him, knowing that they had no thoughts about him for the time being, so there was no need to be afraid. "I didn't expect that you would capture Emperor Taixuan inside. Aren't you afraid that I would come to save people?" As he said that, Qin Hao looked at the purple-robed man on the throne. He raised his head and glanced at Qin Hao, and said coldly, "Save, you'd better bring everyone else in your fairyland here, otherwise you won't give me face." Qin Hao watched them focus on him, knowing that they had many people lined up inside to guard him, otherwise they would not let him come to save him. "Haha, do you think I will be fooled by you? Although there are some immortal kings in the immortal realm, if they come out to confront you, I am afraid they are still no match for you." As soon as the words fell, Qin Hao's consciousness disappeared. For some reason, Qin Hao retracted his consciousness directly into his body. ACI, Suan Wu looked at Qin Hao and suddenly gathered his spiritual consciousness. He didn't know what happened at all, so he asked Qin Hao directly. "What happened? Can you tell me your story?" Qin Hao watched Suan Wu turn his attention to himself, and a killing array of immortal killing formation in his hand had been fired out, directly bombarding the entrance of the hall. The dark ancient palace was not Qin Hao's opponent at all, and he watched helplessly as Qin Hao charged towards them. He came over and let them slowly fall to the ground. The immortal killing formation hit the door, and everyone focused on Qin Hao. They didn't know why Qin Hao came to kill him. When Qin Hao just arrived at the door of the hall, inside the hall the man in purple robe came out and said with a smile, "Suan Wu no longer needs to hide. Can your breath still be hidden?" Suan Wu saw that the man in purple robe had discovered him, and slowly walked out helplessly, focusing on them. "Since you have left behind a branch prince, I can't help you even if I don't take action against you." As soon as the words fell, Qin Hao rushed towards them. The immortal killing formation was all in operation, and there was a burst of thunder inside, causing some disciples of the dark ancient palace to be beaten into nothingness. The man in purple robe looked at Qin Hao came over, he naturally blocked Qin Hao _Fe. Lu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 399. Xuxian killing formation, I didn't expect you to know such an ancient formation. It seems that your status in it is not low. With that said, the purple-robed man stood in front of Qin Hao. Qin Hao watched the purple-robed man focus on himself, and nodded slightly to the purple-robed man. The immortal killing formation is not a good formation. It will be destroyed for you. Suan Wu slowly crawled out from the corner, and his eyes were on the man in purple robe. A tortoise shell on his body began to shrink. The man in purple robe saw that Suan Wu had started to attack him, and a curve appeared in the corner of his mouth. Don't think that just because you are one of the 4 elephants, you can act recklessly. I have known for a long time that you would follow Qin Hao, and I have prepared a big meal for you. After the words fell, the purple-robed man invited a demon ant out of the room, his eyes still on Suan Wu. Suan Wu watched the demon ant appear in front of him and said coldly, "This does not seem to be a beast that exists on our continent. You actually dare to bring a monster from outside the boundary sea?" Qin Hao glanced at the demon ant in front of him and couldn't help but shook his head slightly at the demon ant. The magic ants are just relatively large, so there shouldn't be any problems. After the words fell, Qin Hao had no other voice, and he turned his attention to Suan Wu. Suan Wu watched the demon ant walk up to him, and spit out a mouthful of black water directly at the demon ant, as if he wanted to kill the demon ant. It was the same as shooting down. I saw a fire burst out from the demon ant's body, and bombarded the Suan Wu directly, trying to burn the Suan Wu directly. Unfortunately, the demon ant did not have that strength at all, and it watched the water in the Suan Wu after spitting it out. The two people naturally tied. Qin Hao looked at Suan Wu and demon ant and said with a smile, "It seems like this is still our war. What will the next battle look like?" After the words fell, Qin Hao directly used his energy to save Suan Wu. The man in purple robe saw that Qin Hao had already taken action. He didn't have any extra time, and his expression changed in vain. He was fierce. He punched Qin Hao. Qin Hao saw that the man in purple robe could ignore his own formation, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, and he directly bombarded the man in purple robe. The man in purple robe glanced at Qin Hao and said directly to Qin Hao, "You are no match for me. I think you should just surrender." Qin Hao glanced at the man in purple robe, then turned to look at Suan Wu, found that Suan Wu had also entered a disadvantage. 000. There is always fire spraying out of the ant's mouth, so Suan Wu has no choice but to put his head inside his turtle shell, otherwise he will only be burned by the fire. The man in purple robe saw that Qin Hao did not take action, so he naturally had no intention of taking action and focused his eyes directly on Qin Hao. Soon, another roll of flames spurted out, and Qin Hao found that Suan Wu could not bear it anymore, and his body turned slightly white. Seeing that Suan Wu had turned white, Qin Hao shook his head helplessly, not knowing what happened at all. "I'm no match for him, run." Suan Wu's trembling voice spread out, causing Qin Hao to quickly focus on the demon ant _, You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 400. Boom. He punched the Suan Wu turtle shell again, wanting to see how powerful Suan Wu's defense was. Suan Wu itself is famous for its defensive power. Most people have no way to impress Suan Wu. After all, the turtle shell outside Suan Wu is an artifact. Qin Hao watched the demon ants roasting the demon ants with fire. A cruel look appeared in his eyes, and the immortal killing formation was fired again. 000. The purple-robed man watched the Xuxian killing formation come out, and slapped the killing formation hard with one hand. Immediately, the Xuxian killing formation was beaten into nothingness, making him not afraid at all. Meaning. I saw the man in purple robe set his sights on Qin Hao, wanting to see if Qin Hao could rescue Suan Wu. Now the man in purple robe has basically judged that Qin Hao most likely has no way to take action. Land, otherwise he would not have rushed to other places. Qin Hao watched the man in purple robe focus on himself, pointed at the magic ants and said, "Why did you bring some strange beasts back from the boundary sea? Do you know how to control them?" The man in purple robe glanced at Qin Hao and said with a smile, "I don't think I need to understand this. He has no hostility towards us at all." Qin Hao looked at the man in purple robe saying this and knew that he had to deal with him first, Otherwise the man in purple robe would always have the confidence. Qin Hao slowly took 2 steps forward and focused on Zi. The man in the purple robe had no idea what the man in the purple robe wanted to do. He stepped hard on the floor with the soles of his feet, and his body was shot out like a cannonball, and he came directly in front of the man in the purple robe. Because the magic ant himself also possessing strength, Qin Hao came directly to him and said softly, "Just because you want to save people? It is undoubtedly a fantasy." After the words fell, Qin Hao looked at them all. Just when Qin Hao was about to take the people away, he noticed at a glance that the flames in the devil's mouth had become smaller. Suanwu is originally born with water, and he is naturally afraid of fire. Characteristics: otherwise Suanwu would not be so afraid of the demon ants. Just when Suanwu thought he was about to escape, his eyes were on the demon ant, and he found that there was something on the demon ant. Flames were always spraying out from the mouths of the demon ants, making it impossible for Suanwu to move. Suanwu watched the demon ants keep spraying flames, and he could not use the water in the Black Sea. And none of them expected that the shepherd boy would come at the critical moment. When they arrived in front of him, he asked the shepherd boy to attack them directly. At this time, the shepherd boy held a small flute in his hand and kept turning it over his mouth and playing it. Although the shepherd boy did not have much strength at all, it sounded very comfortable to people, as if it's like wanting to improve people's minds. Qin Hao saw that the shepherd boy had arrived and said quickly, "Run quickly, he can only restrain himself for a short time." With that said, Qin Hao walked out directly. The shepherd boy watched Qin Hao come to him and said softly, "How can I escape? I will be here every day in the future." The shepherd boy naturally knows the consequences of their escape. He is very likely to use his own life to block it, and there is nothing he can do without talking about it. Collect, recommend, and share. Fantasy: after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author: love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 401. Boom. A black flame rose up, causing them to focus on the flame. Qin Hao kept suppressing his immortal killing formation with both hands, trying to trap the purple-robed man inside. Unfortunately, the purple-robed man had already taken action and squeezed out all the energy in the Zuxian killing array, and cracks appeared in the Zuxian killing array. Seeing Suanwu and Qin Hao refusing to leave, the shepherd boy said in a rather ironic tone, "What on earth are you going to do? Don't you know that I have been forced out of all my skills? 02. Don't let me die here in vain." Suanwu saw that the shepherd boy had been forced out of harm's way, and a black liquid spurted out from his mouth, directly hitting the demon ants. The man in purple robe watched them continue to attack the demon ants, and said with a smile, "We rescued the magic ant from the ancient battlefield. Do you think you can kill him in this way? It's really a fantasy." After the voice fell, the man in purple robe walked directly towards Qin Hao, and he took out a piece of floating dust behind his back. It seemed that the man in purple robe also belonged to the magic system. No wonder he had not used his own damage just now. Qin Hao saw that the man in purple robe had come to him, and a series of seals were formed on his chest, as if he wanted to continue to attack the man in purple robe. When the man in purple robe came to him, Qin Hao made another formation. The spell came out and directly bombarded the man in purple robe. With a wave of Fukin, the Zuxian killing formation in front of him was wiped out into nothingness. The shepherd boy saw that Qin Hao had fallen into a disadvantage and focused his eyes on the face in front of him. "Go and rescue Emperor Taixuan quickly, so that we can compete with them." In their hearts, the three of them were barely tied, and it was impossible for anyone to save people inside. Qin Hao watched the shepherd boy turn his attention to himself, and the shepherd boy nodded slightly, and his strength completely exploded. "Come out." The man in purple robe noticed that Qin Hao's strength had changed, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Regarding the strength of the quasi-immortal emperor, it seems that there are still some people in your immortal domain who have slipped through the cracks. Emperor Taixuan is just because he has become the quasi-immortal emperor, otherwise they would not have rashly attacked Emperor Taixuan. Release Emperor Taixuan, or else we will crush your branch hall today. As he said that, Qin Hao focused his attention on the man in purple robe. For some reason, Qin Hao found that the figure of the man in purple robe was a little illusory, as if he didn't exist. After the voice fell, the figure of the man in purple robe slowly walked forward. He took 2 steps and stood directly in front of Qin Hao. Seeing that Qin Hao was unwilling to go there alone, Suan Wu and the shepherd boy couldn't help but focus on the magic ants in front of them, hoping to find the location of the magic ants as soon as possible. For them, this was the only way to relieve Qin Hao of some basic burdens. At the same time, Qin Hao discovered that the blades in the formation were useless at all, which was why the man in purple robe was able to escape. The Xuxian killing formation, it was meant to lock people in, and there were all kinds of skills emerging in it. Why is it useless for my formation to trap you? What on earth did you use to resist it? With that said, Qin Hao fired out a formation again and suppressed the purple-robed man inside _, fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 402. Haha, do you think you can control me just by relying on the formation in front of you? You really underestimate us. When the voice fell, the purple-robed man waved the floating dust in his hand, directly beating the first immortal killing formation into nothingness. Qin Hao put his hands on his chest and kept his eyes on the purple-robed man, as if he was constantly looking at his attacking posture. Due to Qin Hao's subtle observation, he found that the purple-robed man's hands were somewhat illusory, and there was a thin white line connected behind the floating dust, as if someone was transmitting immortal power to him. Is he an incorporeal body? Someone is sending immortal power to him continuously, but how many people am I actually fighting? Qin Hao kept guessing and frowned slightly. The man in purple robe might have discovered something, so he speeded up his swing and hit the barrier in front of him hard. Boom! The Xuxian killing formation was beaten into nothingness. Qin Hao put his hands on his chest, with a hint of teasing between his eyebrows. Not bad, your ideas are quite novel. I wonder how many people are standing behind you. When the voice fell, Qin Hao focused on Fu Chen. When the purple-robed man saw Qin Hao pointing his brow at his weapon, his heart immediately twitched. He knew what Qin Hao had discovered. No wonder you are called the most difficult person to deal with by them. It seems that you really deserve the title. With that said, the purple-robed man put Fukin behind his back. Qin Hao saw that the purple-robed man had hidden Fukin, which further confirmed his judgment. Don't hide it anymore. I already know your true nature. It should be easy to take you in. When the voice fell, Qin Hao turned his attention directly to the man in purple robe in front of him. The man in purple robe glanced at Qin Hao, a look of helplessness appeared on his eyebrows, and there was an attack on his hands. Boom! A purple ball hit Qin Hao, causing Qin Hao to slowly take a few steps back. Since the man in purple robe had no intention of stopping, Qin Hao slowly took a few steps forward, and the power in his hand burst out again, hitting the man in purple robe hard. The purple-robed man himself was a shadow, and he naturally knew that a punch would have no effect on him. A Xuxian killing array formed behind him, and there was a burst of thunder in it. Thunder rang that day, and the man in purple robe immediately changed his expression, letting him focus on Qin Hao. You can actually summon the power of heavenly punishment? Why are you so capable? As he said that, the man in purple robe slowly took a few steps back. Heaven's punishment itself was aimed at those soul bodies, and of course the man in purple robe belonged to the ranks inside, and he kept retreating towards the palace of darkness. Don't let him retreat into the hall, otherwise we won't be able to control them. The voice fell, and another formation was shot out, directly controlling the gate of the branch hall. The man in purple robe watched Qin Hao control his retreat, and there was a faint trace between his eyebrows. Anxious, afraid that he will be beaten into nothingness by heaven's punishment. Ha ha, smash it! When the voice fell, the purple-robed man saw a thunderclap as thick as an arm on the horizon, causing him to flee for some distance. Since Qin Hao had no intention of killing him for the time being, he allowed the thunder to bombard him inside without rules. 0_, comma. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 403. Dark clouds were gathering, and Qin Hao slowly came to Suanwu. The shepherd boy controlled the power of medicine saint, while Suanwu controlled the power of Xianshui. The two could only fight to a draw, which made Qin Hao a little anxious. The magic ants from ancient times do seem to have some power. I wonder if they can resist my power. When the voice fell, Qin Hao's body turned into an afterimage, and he came close to the body of the demon ant. The body of the demon ant was as big as 100 Qin Hao, so he could not find where Qin Hao was. The shape is constantly distorting. All monsters must have weaknesses, just like the weakness of Suanwu is the meat inside the turtle shell. 000 If someone bombards the inside of Suanwu turtle shell, he will be beaten into nothingness immediately, and the turtle shell has no defensive properties at all. Naturally, the ancient ferocious beasts also had their fears, so Qin Hao kept groping on him, trying to see where his weaknesses were. Suanwu saw that Qin Hao had walked up to the demon ant, and quickly faced Qin Hao. He shouted, "Don't look at him like that, look at the antennae on his head." Since Suanwu is one of the 4 sacred beasts, he can slightly sense some restricted areas, so he naturally knows where the restricted areas of the demon ants are. Qin Hao looked at Suanwu and reminded himself, and in a flash he came to the head of the demon ant. The demon ant was so huge that it was impossible to knock Qin Hao off his head, leaving him hovering in the air. Seeing that the demon ant had begun to explode, Suanwu immediately reminded Qin Hao. You have found his weakness, otherwise he would never be impatient. Qin Hao listened to what Suanwu said, and burst out with his magical power, grabbing the tentacles on the demon ant's head. Qin Hao knew that the demon ant was going to throw him down. After all, he was afraid that Qin Hao would find his weakness. Then he would naturally be doomed. Seeing that Qin Hao had found the demon ant's weakness, the man in purple robe roared at Qin Hao. "Qin Hao, our dark ancient palace is at odds with you." When the voice fell, the man in purple robe was hit by thunder, and immediately a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, and his figure gradually became more transparent. Qin Hao looked at the slightly transparent body of the man in purple robe, and understood that the person behind him was also affected by the thunder. Now was not the time to care about the man in purple robe. The demon ant kept banging his head against the wall next to him, making Qin Hao hold onto his tentacles. Wisps of the quasi-immortal emperor's strength burst out, and Qin Hao fiercely punched the demon ant's tentacles hard. Suddenly, traces of black blood flowed from the tentacles, making it impossible for the demon ant to control it, and it kept hovering in the air. The shepherd boy and Suanwu looked at the demon ant and howled in pain. He screamed, knowing that the demon ant had been attacked. Do we take action at the same time? Kill people as quickly as possible. When the voice fell, a burst of black sea water sprayed out from Suanwu's mouth, directly hitting the other tentacle of the demon ant. Since the demon ant only had one tentacle left, he had completely lost his sense of direction, causing his figure to constantly move around. Flying in the air. Qin Hao looked like he had lost control and immediately landed from the air, for fear that they would accidentally hurt him. Boom, another blow hit the demon ant, and another of his tentacles fell off from his head. Fantasy, After thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 404. Ouch! There was no scream from the demon ant's mouth. He could no longer see the environment in front of him, so naturally he didn't know whether he could hit anyone. The man in purple robe saw that the demon ants had lost sight, and hurriedly rushed towards the dark ancient palace. Unfortunately, before he could take a few steps, a thunderbolt struck from the sky, hitting the man in purple robe directly in front of him, causing him to give up and go back. Qin Hao watched the purple-robed man become more and more active, his eyes always on his formation, and the thunder naturally continued to bombard him. As the number of sky thunders increased, the man in purple robe could not think about the problem at all, and kept escaping inside. On the other hand, the shepherd boy and Suanwu had already arrived in front of the demon ant, forcing the demon ant into a desperate situation, leaving him with no way to escape. Qin Hao watched them walk up to the demon ants and said softly, "Why do magic ants suddenly lose their sense of direction? Could it be because there is something wrong with the antennae on their heads?" Suanwu, the ancient divine beast, couldn't help but said to Qin Hao, "Our ancient mythical beasts do not use their eyes to determine direction, but use a certain part of our body, which should be the tentacles on our head." Qin Hao looked at Suanwu saying this and couldn't help but nodded slightly to Suanwu. "I understand, then how should we deal with him? Since the demon ants are always surrounded by flames, there is no way for others to get close, and they naturally have no way to get close. If it were normal, Qin Hao's natural ants would hit the formation, and the flames of the demon ants would burn the hall. That way you won't be afraid that they won't come out. Suanwu and demon ants are both magical beasts from ancient times." Qin Hao was worried that Suanwu had some opinions. Suanwu glanced at Qin Hao, smiled directly at Qin Hao and said, "You don't need to worry about me. I am in a certain category, and he should fall into the category of causing harm to the common people." When the voice fell, Qin Hao charged directly at the demon ant. The demon ant moved its remaining tentacles, as if it could identify where Qin Hao was, and a bunch of flames shot towards Qin Hao. Unfortunately, Qin Hao's body the shape had already fallen to the ground, allowing the demon ant to miss the attack. The man in purple robe watched Qin Hao leading the demon ant to the formation, and immediately felt a little scared, wondering what Qin Hao was going to do. 0 request flowers 0. While avoiding the thunder, he kept looking outside, not knowing what was going on outside. Qin Hao watched the man in purple robe focus on him, and said with a smile, "Are you ready?" When the voice fell, Qin Hao burst out with a burst of quasi-immortal emperor strength. 000. The man in purple robe saw Qin Hao's strength burst out, his eyes were on Qin Hao, and his back was immediately soaked with sweat. "How does this happen, and why can you control the attack direction of the magic ants?" When the voice fell, the man in purple robe watched helplessly as a flame sprayed over. When the flame hit the formation, the figure of the man in purple robe was immediately stained with a little firelight, causing him to scream. The demon ant itself, how could it be that the flames passed down from ancient times could be extinguished easily? Qin Hao watched the flames from the demon ants hit the purple-robed man, and immediately gathered the immortal killing formation, letting the demon ants directly hit the dark ancient palace. Enter 8_, comma. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 405. Boom. The demon ant watched the man in purple robe escape into the dark ancient palace. He became completely crazy and slammed directly into the dark ancient palace. Qin Hao and the other three stood outside the door, their eyes always on the demon ant, and found that there were bleeding wounds everywhere on his body. "Alas, what a pity," said. Qin Hao shook his head helplessly. If the demon ant could be tamed by them, Qin Hao would not attack him at all. After all, no one would dislike having an ancient beast beside him. accompany him. As soon as the sound of impact was heard, the demon ants had already broken into the dark ancient palace, and the three of them slowly followed them into the ancient temple. As soon as the demon ants walked inside, several people immediately stood up around them, holding hands continuously. Power bloomed and controlled the demon ants in the hall. Qin Hao looked at the four people around him and felt the power of the purple-robed man from them, and understood that they should be the people behind the scenes. I wonder if the magic ants can cause some injuries to them, so that I will feel more comfortable. As he said that, Qin Hao couldn't help but cross his hands on his chest. Naturally, he didn't dare to attack rashly now. The demon ants were only attacking the four of them. If Qin Hao attracted the attention of the demon ants by attacking the four of them, I'm afraid that the demon ants were about to help them, which was not what Qin Hao wanted to do. Suan Wu watched them keep fighting against each other, not knowing what the situation was with the demon ants, and slowly stood beside Qin Hao. The magic ants should not be their opponent, we must be prepared at all times. As he said that, Suan Wu looked at Qin Hao. Qin Hao lowered his head and looked at Suan Wu and nodded slightly. Don't worry, I can control the situation. After the words fell, Qin Hao saw that the four of them had formed a very weird formation to control the demon ants in the middle. Incomparably huge light pillars surrounded the demon ants, making it impossible for the demon ants to get out from the middle. What is this? Why can the magic ants be trapped in the middle? Then we also have no way to defeat the light beam in front of us. As he said that, Qin Hao was slightly shocked. He originally thought that he had a chance to win, but he didn't expect that they had a new situation. 0. This seems to be a four-party formation, but I don't know what the strength of the four of them is. As he said that, Suan Wu set his sights on them. Suan Wu himself has survived for a long time. He is very familiar with some ancient formations and can see the secrets inside at a glance. Qin Hao looked at Suan Wu and reminded he looked directly at it and found that there were patterns of the four divine beasts on the light pillar. He saw that the demon ant was continuously accumulated in the middle by the four light pillars, causing all the flesh and blood on his body to shatter. The four-square formation is no joke. These are the four basic pillars that were once used to create the world. However, the 0.8 they are using should not be the Tianzu. In all likelihood, it is a weakened version that they have cultivated themselves. Qin Hao saw that Suan Wu had analyzed everything, and couldn't help but nodded slightly to Suan Wu. I understand, the magic ants have been killed by them, and it should be our turn next. As soon as the words fell, Qin Hao saw four pillars of light sweeping towards them, and the pressure naturally bloomed on the three of them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 406. Boom. The four light pillars kept making sounds, which made Qin Hao focus on the four light pillars. The four light pillars continued to move closer to the middle, and Qin Hao shot out a beam of immortal power from his hand, directly bombarding one of the pillars. In an instant, a green dragon on the pillar began to take off, knocking Qin Hao's immortal power away with a slap. Suan Wu saw that Qin Hao's attack was of no use, and couldn't help but said to Qin Hao, "You have to find the weaknesses in the four-sided formation, but each of the four elephants has its own advantages, and it is not something Qin Hao can easily win." Qin Hao glanced at Suan Wu, and couldn't help but said to Suan Wu, "Tell me the attributes of your four elephants, and you don't need to take care of the rest." The voice fell, and Suan Wu continued, "Qinglong is naturally the main battler. That claw just now represents everything. You are no match for him." As the four light pillars gradually came closer, Suan Wu's voice gradually became faster. "The white tiger should be the most vaguely defined among them, so we can only attack the white tiger. As for the Suzaku and Suan Wu, they are the main defenses, and you can't break them at all." After the words fell, Qin Hao focused his eyes on the light pillar in front of him. He had no way to tell what the light pillar in front of him belonged to. Suanwu closed his eyes and pointed to the north light pillar. That route should be Suanwu, and to the east is Qinglong. Try to see if you can get the white tiger out of the bed. I saw Qin Hao focusing on the right beam of light, and a burst of powerful immortal power came out of his hands, hitting directly on a beam of light. In an instant, a bird chirped. No, you hit the Zuk pillar. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Hao saw a burst of pink emerge from inside, causing the scenery in front of them to change suddenly. Suanwu saw that Suzaku dared to act recklessly in front of him, took a few steps with his huge body, and directly the route is completely blocked. A shadow dares to show off in front of me, do you really think I don't exist? When the voice fell, Suanwu walked directly towards Zuk. Zuk watched Suanwu walking towards him, his eyes filled with shock, and he didn't know what he should do. Qin Hao looked at Suanwu and turned his gaze after hitting Suzaku. Another celestial force hit the white tiger pillar, causing the white tiger pillar to tremble. Unfortunately, Qin Hao couldn't defeat the white tiger with his strength, so the white tiger gradually returned to the pillar. Strange, why didn't Baihu take action against me? Is it because I am not strong enough? Qin Hao shook his head helplessly. Suddenly, a teasing laugh sounded outside. I originally wanted to let you live, but I didn't expect you to come here on your own. Qin Hao looked in the direction of the sound and saw a man wearing a purple robe walking over. It was precisely because his appearance was familiar that Qin Hao immediately understood that he had been created in his original form. The shadow came out. Qin Hao watched them focus on him, smiled directly at the man in purple robe and said, I can break up your consciousness once, I can break up your consciousness a second time. Haha, do you think I still have spiritual consciousness? How ridiculous. The man in purple robe slowly sat on the Qinglong light pillar, speeding up the progress of the light pillar. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 407. Pull. A Suzaku sound rang out above the light pillar, and a dark green tortoise shell on Suanwu's body rose up and hit the Suzaku in front of him. Since Suzaku was just a shadow and was no match for Suanwu, he was severely trampled under his feet by Suanwu. Seeing that Suzaku had been controlled, the man in purple robe sneered and said, it seems that you are quite capable. Are you the real Suanwu? Just now, the man in purple robe thought that Suanwu was just an afterimage, but he didn't expect that Suanwu was actually the real deity. He didn't react for a moment. Suanwu watched the purple-robed man turn his attention to himself, his figure slowly rose into the air, and a wisp of flame burned in his eyes. Suanwu was originally a water person, and he didn't like the feeling of being imprisoned. Qin Hao saw black water spurting out of Suanwu's mouth, and understood that Suanwu had already started to take action, so naturally he couldn't stand aside and watch. Suzaku has been controlled by him, so it is naturally easy for Zuza to escape. Qin Hao was seen slapping the vermilion bird light pillar hard, and a killing array of immortal killing passed through it. The man in purple robe watched Qin Hao take action, and a purple light came down from his body, hitting the formation just right. Immediately, the immortal killing formation and the purple-robed man were entangled together, causing Qin Hao to continuously control the formation in front of him with both hands, trying to directly bombard the purple-robed man. At the same time, the shepherd boy slowly walked up to Hao, with a golden light blooming from his body, and punched the purple-robed man in front of him fiercely. The man in purple robe saw a punch being struck at him. He understood that they were their opponents and quickly took a few steps back. Bang! Fortunately, the light pillar was the head of the blue dragon, so the power of the blue dragon directly suppressed it and would not collapse out of thin air. Suanwu saw that Qin Hao and the shepherd boy failed to knock down Zhu with one blow, and a grim look flashed on his face. You are actually studying the four elephants formation. It seems that you have already occupied the Four Elephants Divine Valley. The Four Elephants formation must master the Pearl of the Four Elephants in the Four Elephants Divine Valley, otherwise they will not be able to use the formation at all. They got the Pearl of the Four Elephants. I remember I met them last time I went there, but they were already killed by me. I didn't expect them to actually get it. Suan Wu saw that Qin Hao had made up his mind, and a coldness quietly emerged between his eyebrows. I will open a gap in Wu Guangzhou later. You can find a way to find Qinglong in the Four Elephants Valley. Qinglong must help. After the words fell, Suan Wu's figure grew bigger in vain, causing everyone to focus on Suan Wu. Black Sea. The voice fell, and the Black Sea water continued to spurt out from the mouth, causing the Black Sea water to circulate in the formation. Yes. Qin Hao looked at the Black Sea and poured into the formation, knowing what Suan Wu wanted. What to do? The Black Sea itself has a certain corrosiveness. He wanted to use the corrosiveness of the Black Sea to directly break the light pillar in front of him. Suan Wu slowly came to the side of the Suan Wu light pillar, and a miniature version of Suan Wu appeared on his body. It hit the light pillar hard. Suddenly a crack appeared in the Suan Wu light pillar, allowing Qin Hao to escape from the crack _, comma.